Hi, I'm Dan Falk, and today I'm going to go through a few kayak rolls to give you a general idea of some of the more commonly used Greenland rolls. And some of these have practical purpose and some are just for fun. First I'm going to do my bread and butter roll that I use when I'm really in trouble, and it's a forward-leaning sweep roll, also called the screw roll. And your hands are in the combat position, which is your hands are in a position where you would normally be paddling, as opposed to an extended paddle roll, which gives you more leverage. So I'll first show you the combat roll, forward-leaning screw roll. Some people call it a storm roll. There's a lot of different terminology. People use these in different ways, and I'm not really sure what the correct terminology is. First, the forward-leaning screw roll. And you can see I finished with my head flush on the front deck. So there's another forward-leaning roll that I like a lot, which is an extended paddle roll. And I think some people call this the styre roll. And it comes into play when you're surfing. A lot of times you'll have your paddle back here because you're ruddering when you're in the surf, like in the ocean. And you may capsize. So a good roll is a forward, you end up leading forward. You start off on the back deck and end up leading forward, as opposed to the roll I showed you previously where it's a front to front roll, front deck to front deck. This is a back deck to front deck roll. And it goes like this. Now that roll is pretty easy because you're using the extended paddle position. So like I say, that comes into play when you're surfing. Then there's some back deck rolls. And I'm going to show you my back deck combat roll, which is a front leaning finishing up on the back deck. So it's front to back rather than back to front as I showed you before. Again, it's a screw roll, hands in the combat position. And I'm not really sure what the Greenland name for this roll is, but you will see it soon enough. And that's that roll. There's other sort of interesting back deck rolls, and a lot of them are for show. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you a roll with a throwing stick. This is a traditional Greenland throwing stick. I guess I'm told they used it to throw a harpoon at one time. And then, of course, kayakers realized that it would be useful to roll with this stick as well, which makes it a little bit easier than a pure hands roll, which I'll show you next. So here is the throwing stick, backward-leading throwing stick roll. You could also finish forward. There's a number of other ones, but I'll show you the backward-leading one. Again, it's easy because I kept my head very low to the back deck. If you do that, the roll is easy. If you lift your head, the roll can become very difficult to impossible. So that's a precursor to the backward-leading hands roll. And this is without the stick whatsoever, and it comes from having a strong hip snap and keeping, again, your head very low, coming up out of the water onto the back deck. That's what makes this roll possible. So that's the backward-leading hands roll. And there's other forward-leading hands rolls as well, where you could start off on the side, come forward, or come from the back deck, similar to holding a paddle and finishing forward. So there's some other rolls that are really no different from those. There's a vertical, they call it the vertical storm roll. These rolls that I'm going to show you are more for, they're more for show than any real practical purpose. They're just for fun. So here you go. This is a really slow roll. I actually switch the paddle from one hand to the other to affect this roll. People seem to like this one. It's called the vertical storm roll, I believe. again, that's a real slow roll, easy as pie as long as you keep your head plastered to the front deck. Then you have some other little trick rolls. I don't even know the names of some of these. Something like this, where you just leave this in place, kind of crawl on it. You can finish forward or back, whichever, front deck or back deck, whichever one you like. I tend to do this one as a front deck roll. You're right. Of course, there's no real difference between these and any other roll. Here's an interesting back deck roll that you might enjoy. And also the same roll again. This time with the paddle behind my head. And none of these rolls is any really different. They're all backward leading sweep rolls. You're holding the paddle in a different position. These rolls don't really have any practical purpose. They're just for fun. And they really are no different than the basic back deck leading sweep roll. I tend to do all sweep rolls. I'm not really much of a brace roller, though I could show you a brace roll. But let's do this as a behind the back sweep roll. Of course, I meant behind the head sweep roll. I was also going to show you a balance brace, or I'll show you a sculling brace as the first thing. This time of year, which is May 29th, my balance brace seems to be out of kilter, but I have the sculling brace, which I'll show you. And that really takes very little motion to maintain your boat in an upright position, as long as you're pressing with your knees.
I think it's... Oh.
Is it off?
It's on now.
It's back on? Okay, we're back on with the balance brace. To get into the balance brace, if you haven't practiced for a while, like I haven't, you use two paddles to get into the balance brace position. Eventually you can do it with one paddle, and then you can do it with no paddle at all. You can do a balance brace with just hands, depending on how much you practice. And so here it is with two paddles, and I'll let go of one paddle in a second. Here we go. So that's the balance brace. And yes, embarrassingly enough, I use two paddles, as my balance brace is a bit off this time of year. I will try it with just one paddle now. Okay, there we go. When you come up out of the balance brace, you want to keep your head low on the back deck. That's how you come up, same as you would for any other roll. So that's pretty much the repertoire of rolls. Of course, you always want to practice both your on and off side rolls. In other words, in both directions. So I was doing all my rolls going one direction. Now I'll show you it's also important to be able to roll in the opposite direction. And that just seems to be natural to roll one way or the other, but it's important to practice both sides. In case you're in conditions where you can't roll on one side, and you need to roll on the other in case you're in waves and wind, which would prohibit you from rolling one direction. You have to be able to roll in the other direction. Okay. Thank you for visiting, and be sure to check out our website. That's stormpaddle.com. And yes, I'm a traditional Greenland paddle. Paddler, and so we named the website after the storm paddle.